This video is not for loyal shields or Kurobots, it's for you because you are just like me. ALG here, and today it's time for some reflection, some introspection, because right now, as much as I don't believe that Zenless Zone Zero needs saving, it's my favorite gacha game, and maybe I'm just a little too biased, and it's important to constructively feedback from time to time, and it's been about 8 months since I last did this, so yeah, I've got a few ideas. Hear me out, and feel free to drop me a comment down below on what you'd like to see in Zenless Zone Zero moving forwards. So I've got 3, maybe 4 points, depending on how we define it, that I want to talk you through that I think would make Zenless Zone Zero just a straight better gacha game for everyone. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. Point number 1 is, wouldn't it just be an absolutely huge win, a positively monumental marketing push that the Zenless Zone Zero development team could do if they changed the weapon banner to be guaranteed 100% on the weapon that you want for the character that you want? Give it 100%. Get away with the 75-25, because in other games, they've made it work. I'm just putting it out there. And I'm also going to mention as well that in Genshin Impact, they did update the way that the 50-50 works with the capturing radiance mechanic, so it's not like Hoyoverse are going to be completely against the idea of amending the way that their weapon banner currently works, because realistically they've amended the way that the gacha works before. Of course, I would also take the capturing radiance mechanic. I do think that losing a 50-50 in any gacha, especially when it's taking potentially like $470 something, isn't it, per character, like that's a really tough loss if you lose a character, because you know the costs can then really mount up if you particularly want one character. And obviously, yeah, you should be earning your regular income that you would get from playing the gacha as well, but yeah, it can be really rough if you lose the 50. I take capturing radiance, but I think what's more likely is that it would be possible for us to get the 100% on the weapon banner. It's already a 75-25. Hey, let's just do it. And this is not just some out of the blue, you know, like wishful thinking situation. I'm not asking them to give us limited S rank characters for free. I don't think it would be unrealistic to change the weapon banner to be guaranteed. I could hear the argument as well that we have solid A rank options, and the reason that we do have solid A rank options is because we don't have a guarantee on our weapon banner in Zenless Zone Zero. And I kind of see the point there, but it does feel like the weapons are getting better and better in Zenless Zone Zero, and if they want to continue with that trend, then making it a 100% guarantee on the weapon banner, hey, like that's just a good news story all the way around. It will result in a great positive marketing push for the game, and yeah, I don't think it's an unrealistic expectation. Okay, point number 2 that I want to get into is easier to understand combat. And I'm going to develop this in another point a little bit later on, but easier to understand combat. And it's not because I think that the combat is necessarily super difficult or anything along those lines. It's just that it's tough to interpret what's going on sometimes. So Zenless Zone Zero will show you what's going on with the character ability buffs. So when you activate a character ability buff, like Astra's astral singing, I can't remember what it's called. When you activate that buff, what's going to happen is you're going to get a little icon under the name at the top of the screen, and then that's going to show you what's going on with the buffs for that particular character. So you can see that the character here has Astra's buff on it. But what you can't see is that Astra could also be providing other buffs as well, and the character could also be having other buffs from their drive discs. So Astra could be providing buffs from her weapon, for example, if she has her weapon, or if she has Kaboom the Cannon, she could also be providing buffs from those Wengines effects. And the character themselves could also have, you know, a drive disc set where they have certain uptime and non-uptime, something like Woodpecker or Hormone Punk, and it doesn't show you those buffs. Essentially, the reason that I'm talking about this is it only shows you the character ability buffs, but it doesn't show you the drive disc buff or the Wengine buffs, and both of those are really important to the way that you play the characters. Now, you can kind of figure this out and, you know, keep count of it in your head, stuff like that, but I really think that it wouldn't be too much effort to have a few extra icons under the name. I mean, realistically, we'd be talking about 2 potential extra icons for a Wengine buff and for a drive disc buff. Now, in theory, you could have drive disc buffs from other characters apply to all of the team, stuff like that, and, you know, kind of like in the same way Astra's singing applies to other characters of the team. Something like Swing Jazz is going to provide like a team-wide damage bonus. Potentially just a few extra icons. That's all I'm saying. It's a few extra icons. Can we just have it? Please. It would make it so much easier to understand what's going on. And especially when you watch runs for other players, or, you know, like if you're a player yourself and you're trying to learn and understand the way that the combat works, it doesn't make things easy because you can't tell why you're doing more damage. And yes, you can check it in the pause menu and you could go and you could try it out in the training mode, but I'm gonna be real. Who's doing that? Okay, so we're going to get on to the potentially more hot topic issue in just a moment. After this reminder, you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing is a great way to support creators like me on YouTube. You can also drop me a follow over on Twitch. I yap about this stuff pretty regularly. And you can also join the Discord. Come in there. Tell me how wrong you think I am. Let's go. Okay, then let's get back to it. Point number 3. Point number 3 is that the endgame is currently pretty shilly. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. Is that it's trying really hard to sell you on the newer characters. And in order to do this, what they're doing is they're pushing up the HP barrier, they're pushing in new mechanics, and then they're giving ways around those new mechanics by, trying to sell you the new unit. And to be honest, sometimes they do a pretty decent job of it, and sometimes they do a pretty terrible job of it. And it makes it feel like you really should pull the new character in order to clear. And by the way, you absolutely don't need to. And of course, if you get like a slower time on one side of your Shilly defense, you can always make it up on the other side, stuff like that. But an example of it done well, we have the Heretic Jester boss in Shilly defense currently. And I think he's been out by almost over a week by the time you've probably seen this video. But he responds better to Anomaly than he does stun damage, but he doesn't necessarily need you to have Yuzuha. If you have Yuzuha, you're going to have a much, much easier time with him. Yep, sure. But if you don't have Yuzuha, you could still use other characters and clear pretty comfortably. He has a miasma mechanic, but that miasma mechanic is not wanting you to use a rupture agent like Yishuan at all, because he actually responds better to anomaly damage rather than, like penetrative damage. So I guess what I'm saying is that like that's an example of them doing it pretty well, but sometimes it's not always done well, and it has felt pretty shilly. And I understand that this is just a reality of the way the gacha games work. They exist to sell you on the new character. However, it would just be pretty nice if it was you could do this, or you can still clear it with the old units. Kind of like the way they're doing it now. And I think that's a small celebration of, hey, they're doing it okay right now. But there has been times where it hasn't felt particularly good. And to be clear, if you had other units, you can almost always brute force it and, still get the clears within a reasonable time frame. It's just the jump has been pretty big sometimes. And lastly, then, the game doesn't teach you how to do things very well, but then it punishes you for not knowing how to do those things. And this is something that I talked about just a moment ago with the Jester. He has a menu screen where you can go and you can read about him, and it will tell you that if you manage to defensive assist while he's in the air, then it's going to knock him down and it's going to destroy his miasma bar. I can't really remember exactly the wording. I'll put it on screen right now, but that's what's going to happen. But if you don't venture into the menu here, then there's a chance that you just don't know that. And then you might just dodge all of the stuff that he throws at you in the air, because he gets 4 knives in the air. He throws 3 of them at you, and a random one of those is defensive assistable. So it's yellow, not red. And then you're meant to defensive assist against that one, and that's going to knock him out of the sky. The game doesn't do a very good job of teaching you its own mechanics. It also does this sometimes with Deadly Assault bosses, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that I would just love it if before you fight some of these, that there's like a little pre-fight, like a little pre-fight prep area where you can click a button. You can ignore it, of course, but like there's just like an extra prompt and being like first time, and you press the first time button and it puts you into the scenario where you're going to do the key mechanic that's going to save you a whole lot of time, or half the miasma bar, or whatever it might be. I just think that putting it like somewhere else on the menu means that most players probably aren't going to read it, and then they're not going to find out about it unless they go online and watch clears from other people, or they actually do venture in there at some point when they realize that they're struggling to clear the endgame content. But anyway, that's about enough out of me. Those are the 4 things. Let me know what you guys think down below. Add it in. If you're interested in another video, mine should pop up now. I'm off now, and as always, remember to like, subscribe, and have a luck on your pools. Responsibly, stay weird. Bye. 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 Bye.